Selenium is a system for browser automation. The way it works is that it provides SDKs in different programming languages such as Python, Java, C#, JavaScript that allow us to interact with the web browser. We can instruct the browser to open a web page, click on a button, enter text into an input field, and then we also have access to the DOM of the web page, and we can extract information for it. Some common use cases for Selenium are integration, testing, then also we can also automate specific tasks like entering data into web forms. And also a common use case is web scraping. If we are trying to scrape single page apps in React or Vue, Selenium is pretty much our only choice, because when we load the HTML from the server, there's not a lot of information we can extract from there. In the documentation, we can see the list of SDKs that are available, so Java, Python, C#, Ruby, JavaScript, Kotlin, and also the list of browsers that are supported. So we have Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Internet Explorer, and Safari. There are different ways in which we can use Selenium. So the first one is by using the Selenium WebDriver, and this one will simply control the web browser on your local computer. And for example, for this Chrome browser that we are looking at right now, we would need to install this Chrome driver binary for my operating system, and then we point the SDK to this Chrome driver. But the problem is that it is not very portable. If you're trying to run some integration tests, you will always need to have a computer with the browser open that has this extension. Some more portable solutions is using Selenium Grid. And this one creates like some sort of server that can run browser sessions. And these sessions, they don't have a user interface, so you cannot see what is happening there. If you want to see what is going on, you will have to install something called NoVNC for the Selenium Grid. But fortunately, there is a Docker image that combines Selenium Grid and NoVNC. And this is what we are going to use in this video. Also, we are going to use the Python SDK for illustration purposes, and we are going to point the browser Selenium to this page, which is the Hacker News page, and we're going to enter a search in this bar, and then try to extract the titles. Of course, if you're trying to scrape another page, make sure you don't break the end user license of that service. All these URLs that we looked at so far will be available in the video description, and also the source code that we are going to write. And without further ado, we can start off this standalone Docker image. So this one is Selenium standalone Chrome. There are different versions for Firefox and Edge and so on, but we're just going to use the Chrome one. So make sure you have Docker installed, and we're simply going to run this command. Very important to give it this shared to increase the shared memory of the Docker image. And also I'm going to remove the -d flag that will create it detached, because we want to see the output of the command. Okay, very good. So we can see that it is running, and in the documentation, so it says that we will need to point the WebDriver. This is the URL that we need to point our SDK to, so it will be localhost 4444. And then this is the user interface, the no VNC part that will show what is happening in a container. Right now, it's not showing anything because we didn't create any browser sessions. And this is what we are going to do next. In order to connect to this Selenium Grid server running inside the Docker image, we will need to create a remote WebDriver in our Python script. So if we go to documentation, to WebDriver and drivers, it shows us different options we have for drivers. So local driver will be if we are trying to control the browser running on our local machine, but in our case we need to use RemoteWebDriver to connect to the server, to the Selenium Grid server. And this is the basic example that we will use as a starting point in Python. I have here a Python REPL that we are going to use. First, you will need to make sure that you install the Selenium library in your Python. So you can do pip install Selenium in the terminal, not in the REPL. I already have it, so I don't need to do it. This is the package. So yeah, it's just called Selenium. And now we need to import the WebDriver library. So it will be from Selenium import WebDriver. And now just use the code from the documentation. We do Chrome options because our server is doing Chrome browsers. Oh yeah, we need to fill in the server. For the server, we'll need to fill in the URL with port 4444. So localhost 4444. That the Docker image exposes. So now if we go to the VNC, we can see that it opened the browser window. Before we proceed, there's one thing that I forgot to do, and that is to increase the timeout of browser sessions from Selenium Grid. That will make our life much easier. The default is 5 minutes, so if you're playing around with it, you can easily hit it. So for this, we're just going to close the driver for now. We can see that the browser is no longer here, so we need to go back to the Docker image and stop it temporarily. And we need to start it again and also pass an environment variable. Let me see exactly what so it's -e, and then the environment variable is se node session timeout, and this will be a number of seconds. We can do 3600 for 1 hour. So yeah, we can see in here it says session timeouts equals 3600. Okay, now we can reconnect to the VNC and create the session again, reopen the driver. And yeah, we see that we have the browser window again. So this driver object will be the way in which we interact with the virtual browser. So if we go to the documentation in here, in the section with WebDriver and interactions, we can see the operations that we can do. We can get the title of the page. We have to switch to Python. The title of the page, the current URL. We can start with just navigating to one page. So this is what we need to do. Just driver.get and then the URL. In our case, the URL will be news. Actually, we need to add https news.ycombinator.com. So we can go back to the VNC and we see that it actually opened the page that we wanted. Next, we'll look into how we can find elements programmatically on this web page. So on the documentation, there is a section called Elements and subsection Finding Web Elements. So in here, there are functions in which we can find the first element or find all the elements. And there are different strategies for identifying the elements. We can identify them by ID, by CSS class name. There's one that uses CSS selectors. This is usually the one I use. The criteria I use by CSS selectors. So if we do driver find elements, it will return us all the elements with a certain criteria. So we can try this on our page. Here, if we do inspect, let's say we try to select the titles of these news articles. So if we do inspect, we can see that, for example, this is a span with class title line. And let's see if the other ones are the same. So if we do inspect on the next one, this one is also a span with class title line. So if we select all the spans with title line, it should give us all the titles of the news articles. And in here, yeah, we need to import this this class by in our Python code. So now if we do elements equals, let's say driver find elements, and then it will be by CSS selector. And our CSS selector will be span dot, let's see, what was title line, okay. So if we do title line, and here we see that it found 30 elements. And if we take a look at the first element, so elements of 0, and the property text, it says the real-time preemption endgame. So yeah, we can see is the first title. And also the second one, just to spot check that it works correctly, says Justice Department says collusion suit against department owners should move. Justice Department, okay, so yeah, it worked correctly. It extracted the information we expected. Next, we will see how we can interact with some of the DOM elements. So what we are going to do is just to enter some text from Python on this search bar at the bottom and then submit the form. So if we take a look at the documentation, in here under elements, there will be a section called interactions. And here are some basic commands that we can use on elements. So we can send clicks, we can send keys, which is equivalent to typing a text. We can clear a text field and submit a form. In our case, we need to use send keys to the input text and also do submit on the form. So if we need to identify these elements, of course. So if we take a look at if we inspect this search box, let's see again. So yeah, we can try to select all the elements that are inputs. Hopefully there's only one input. If not, we need to refine our search criteria. So let's say inputs equals driver find element again by CSS selector. I guess we can also do by tag name, and then it will be input. So if we take a look at inputs, we see that there's only one result, which is very good. So we can use the command, let's see which one it was, send keys, yeah. So if we do inputs 0, send keys, let's just say React. And if we go back to our virtual browser, we can see that it actually typed in React in the search bar, which is very good. So now we also need to select the form. So we'll do the same. This time it will be form, and the variable will be called forms. So we can see in here that there's also one form on the page, which works very well for us. So now we will just do forms of 0 submit. So we see what happened in here. So yeah, it submitted the form, and now we can see the results for our search query. And we can try to extract the titles again. Let's see if it's the same criteria. So in here there's a span. So this one is story title. It looks like the format is a bit different. But anyway, we can select from the class story title. We can select the span. So we can try this. Let's say elements, driver, find elements. This will be a CSS selector. So let's see the class name again. It's story title, and then the span. Let's see, so it found 10 elements. So now if we do title, let's say titles, let's e.text for e in elements, and we should see the titles that were selected. So it says relicensing React, JSFlow, immutable, build your own React. React Native is now open source, explaining React's license. Build your own React. So yeah, there it extracted the titles very well, and as we expected. This is all the material I have for today. If you want to support the channel, please like the video or consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.